morning, everyone. My name is Dr. M. Nagaraju, working as Assistant Professor in the Department of CSE and ML in Institute of Aeronautical Engineering, Hyderabad. So today we are here to discuss the definitions and terminologies which are related to Module 5. So the Module 5, according to our syllabus, is going to cover three different chapters. One is called as planning. One is planning. Second chapter talks about the learning procedure of a AI machine. And also at the end, the third chapter we are going to discuss is about the expert systems. So we need to understand, means during this particular video we are going to understand about some of the most important definitions and terms which are related to planning and learning, and we will try to see the definitions and terminologies of expert systems in the upcoming class. So coming to the today's session, we are going to talk about what do you mean by planning and what are the different components that this planning is going to have. At the same time, we are going to see what do you mean by this goal stack planning and what is the procedure that we are going to follow in implementing this goal stack planning algorithm. Later on, we will try to understand what is the definition of learning, and also we will try to see what do you mean by rote learning and the other learning activities that are available in the learning stage. So let us come to the point directly. So planning. So we know that for any kind of problems, it may be an artificial intelligence problem or it can be a general problem. Our primary duty is we need to have a proper plan in order to understand how the solutions can be obtained for that given problem. So until and unless we have a proper planning, we cannot able to get our desired results. In the similar fashion, whenever you are dealing with artificial intelligence kind of problems, our primary duty is we need to perform the planning. Means we need to conduct a planning activity. In that planning activity only, we will come to know, or we will try to understand how the problem can be easily solved and how we can get the results what we are expecting. So let us try to understand what do you mean by the problem here. What do you mean by planning here? So as we know that in the problem solving paradigm, means when we are talking about the problem solving, we are going to describe about a particular process. So for example, if you are taking a problem related to search activity, then we can say that this search activity process can be described as a we can say a step-by-step process. We can say means in that particular aspect we are going to discuss, or we are going to learn how a particular problem is taken, means what is the given state to us and what the desired state we need to obtain. Means whatever the procedure that we are going to follow in order to move from the given state to the desired state. So such kind of procedure generally we follow in the problem solving paradigm. So we can describe, means we in simple words we can describe the problem solving statement as a process of deriving or process of obtaining the desired state from the given state in the state space search. This is also very important. In the given state space, what is a procedure or what is a process you are following in order to get to the desired state. So generally we know that when if it is a kind of such kind of problems, means as we know in module 3 we have discussed most of the problems which are related to the search activity. So if it is the, such kind of activity, then we can say that such process are going to start with a initial state, and we are going to perform some sequence of allowable operations through which we are going to move towards the desired state, or we can say to the goal state. So in simple words, we can understand that if it is a such kind of problem, first we are going to give a initial state. We are going to give a initial state. So we can say that if you are treating that initial state as a particular node, and if this is an initial state, so what we are going to do, we are going to identify, or we are going to perform some sequence of allowable operations. So what operations we need to perform? So before starting solving the problem, we are going to prepare the knowledge base that we know. Okay. So in the knowledge base, we are going to have some set of rules which can be applied to this particular state in order to obtain the new state in the state space. For example, think that we are having some kind of operations like O1, O2, like that ON. So that means that in the knowledge base, before solving this particular problem, you have framed some n number of operations. Now our duty is we need to identify which is the best suitable operation to this particular state. Means in this case what we are doing, we are trying to identify, or we are going to select a particular operation from the list of operations whatever we have framed, and we are going to apply to the initial state. So during the successful application, what happens, we are going to get a new state which we are going to call it as a current state, or sometimes even this may becomes as a desired state also. Okay, so that's why we say that in the search process especially, we are going to start it with the initial state and going to perform some sequence of allowable operations. Means we are going to apply some rules to that particular initial state. So how many number of times we are going to do this process, means until we get a we are reaching to the cold state. But see, we cannot expect that every time the artificial intelligence problems will be that much simple as we do it in the such kind of activities. So artificial intelligence problems may be simple problems, or it may be more complicated. But when it is more complicated, we cannot able to follow the same kind of process what we have followed in order to clear up that such kind of problems. That's why we are saying that sometimes there will be most complicated problem domains. There will be most complex problem domains. So in that case, what happens? You cannot able to solve it directly. Means you cannot consider the problem as a single unit, and you cannot able to get the solution for that. Why? Because we know that as the problem complexity is increasing, then definitely even it will be very complicated for us to write some rules, to prepare some knowledge base, and to obtain the results for that one. Why? Because the complex the problem, the complex it will be for writing the AI programs or to develop some AI programs. So in that case, what we have to do, we need to have a proper planning. So what kind of planning we are going to follow in this case means we are going to apply a process called as decomposition. So I'm trying to repeat the statement once again. You see, so when the problem statements are more complex to solve, means actually the search problems are very simple, where we are going to apply some operations continuously to the given state, and we will keep on obtaining the desired state. Keep on applying the operations and trying to move towards the desired state. But when the complexity of the problem is increased, we cannot able to follow the same kind of sequence what we have done in the search process. So in that case, what happens when the complexity of the problem is increasing more, we are trying to do some kind of planning activity. So what do you mean by planning here? In this planning, we are trying to decompose the problem statement into several subproblems. Okay. So when the problem statement is bigger or more complex, it's not possible to get the solution for this entire problem statement. So what we are doing, we are trying to decompose this problem into several subproblems. Okay, so what we do is after obtaining the subproblems, we will try to resolve each and every subproblem individually. So in this case, what happens? We are going to get the partial solutions, we can say. We are going to get the partial solutions here. What are the partial solutions? Means the solutions for individual units, we can say. Okay, if you consider this one as a whole problem and these are the subproblems, then we can say that this partial solution is nothing but the solution for this particular subproblem. So in this case, what happens? We need to find out the partial partial solutions for 9 subproblems. So this is a process called as here the decomposition. So what we do after obtaining the 9 partial solutions, we are going to combine them together in order to obtain the main solution, or in order to obtain the solution for the whole problem, we can say. So this is a kind of planning we are doing in order to solve the more complex problems. So it is also important for different reasons. So in this particular case, we are trying to talk about the 2 important reasons which makes this decomposition more easy or implementable, so that we can solve the problems in a simple way. So let us try to understand the first reason why we need this decomposition problem. So we can say that we must avoid having no recompute the entire problem state. So this is a very, very important thing. Means when you are thinking the problem as a single unit and trying to solve it. If in some particular case, if you think that you are not reaching towards the desired state, then what happens? Again, you need to recompute the process which you have already done. But when it is a problem of decomposition, means when it is a planning of decomposition, it's not necessary to revisit the sub problem which has already solved. So that is one of the important advantage what we are having while solving the problems by using this decomposition. So in this case, what we can say that we need to consider only the part of the state. It's not necessary to consider the entire state. We are going to consider only the part of the state which we need to change. So let us try to take one example and we will understand what you mean by these kind of things. So moving from one room to another room. So think that you have deployed a robot and you have assigned a task to that robot saying that move a table from one room to another room. Okay, so this is a task given to you. So in this particular case, instead of writing the rules for the entire objects that present in a room, it's better to write the rules only to the objects which are moving from one room to another room. Okay, so we will try to understand this example more clearly now. And even if you take the example of 8 puzzle problem also, this kind of difficulty we are going to see. So it is not difficult to figure out how the state of the 8 puzzle problem should change after every move. Okay, so in the 8 puzzle problem also we are going to identify the legal move by seeing the appropriate rules, means whatever the appropriate rules that we can apply, based on that we are going to solve the problem. So in this case, when you are moving to a particular state, it is not necessary to revisit the states which you have already come across. So that's why we can say that when you are using this decomposition problem, it will be very easy to solve the complex problems. So if you are considering, means that's why moving from one room to another room. For example, think that you have deployed a robot and you are guiding a robot, right? So what you are guiding, that is in the ordinary house, and we are talking about the situation in which more complexity is available. So just moving a table from one room to another room, it may look very simple for understanding, but when you are trying to implement the code, or when you are trying to write the AI programs, it will be very difficult. Why? Because the situation itself is more complex to understand. So how it will be, means how we are going to overcome these kind of problems. So what we are doing is we are trying to describe the single state. Okay, the description of the single state is very large, since it must describe the location of each object in the house as well as that of the robot. So we know that along with the table, we are going to see some other objects in the room. So in this particular case, is it necessary to consider only the objects that are moving from one room to another room, or do we need to consider the other objects which are present in that room? So that's why we say that the complexity is going to increase more. So in that case, what we have to do is we need to understand the location of each and every object that present in that room, and at the same time we need to describe, or we need to mention, or we need to inform to the robot. We need to say to the robot that what objects need to be moved and what objects need not to be moved. So we can say that the given action on the particular part of robot will change only some part of the total state. Okay, so when the table is moving from one room to another room, the location of the table is going to change, but the other objects that present in the room is not going to change. It will be like that. We will try to see more scenarios about this table changing. So if the robot pushes a table across the room, then the location of the table and all the objects that were on the table is going to change. So these things we need to consider. We need to understand first. Okay, so what is that? When the robot is trying to move the table from one room to another room, the position or the location of the table is going to change, as well as the objects that present on the table is also going to change. But what about the other objects? The other objects present in the room is not going to change. Okay, so this is a general thing what we know. But what about the way of writing the rules for these kind of problems? Means instead of writing the rules that describe transformations of the entire state, so why you are writing the rules in order to, means that can apply to all the objects that are present in the room along with the table. So why can't you write the rules, or why can't you design the rules which will be applicable only to the table as well as the objects that present on the table? So what we are doing, instead of considering the entire house state space, why can't you consider? Why you are not considering only the objects whose location is going to change? So instead of considering the entire house and writing the rules for each and every object present in it, we are going to consider only the objects that present on the table along with the table here. So what happens, we can say in this particular case, we can say that the other part of the description is not going to change. It is going to stay constant. Means in the initial state, we used to write the transformation, we used to write the rules for all the objects that present in the room along with the table and the objects present on it. But in this case, what we are doing in the decomposition, we are writing the rules only for the table and also for the objects present on the table without disturbing the other objects' rules or transforming other rules, we can say. So let us try to understand the components of the planning system. So there are different components, we can say, and we need to follow some kind of procedure in order to understand how these components can be applicable here. So in problem solving means, especially as we are talking about the problem solving, it is very important to understand how to perform the different activities. So what are the different activities? You see, the first one is choosing the best rule to apply. So this is very important. Why? Because in the knowledge base we are going to frame number of rules which are applicable to the entire problem statement. But when you are trying to move from one state to another state in the state space, that will happen only when you are selecting an appropriate rule, means the best suitable rule to that particular state. That is going to impact. Means if you are selecting a best suitable rule to that particular state, definitely it will make you to move to the what we can say, to the new state and the expected state also. Why we are calling it as expected state? Means that will makes us to move towards the desired state. That's why the main important thing that that relays on the solution is completely the way how you are selecting the rule. How the best rule which if you are selecting, then definitely it will make you to move towards the desired state or to get a good solution. So once the best rule, means best applicable rule to that particular problem statement, so particular state is identified, then we have to apply that rule. So when you apply that rule, definitely you are going to get a new problem state. So detect when a solution has been found. So this is also very important. For example, if I talk about this in terms of search space, we can say that this is the initial state what we are having. And whenever you are applying applicable rules to that particular state, what happens? You are going to get a new state. Okay, you are going to get a new state, and this new state is going to be your current state. So in this case, means whenever there is a change in the state, definitely you have to do some kind of comparison. So this is it need to be a regular process. Why? Because what kind of comparison here? We are doing the comparison, means we need to do the comparison in order to understand whether the newly obtained state or whether our current state is equal to the desired state or not. Why? Because sometimes even after applying only one rule, we may move towards the desired state. So in that case, we means how the AI program is going to understand that one. That's because of that point only. Whenever a new rule is applied and whenever a new state is obtained, then definitely it need to be compared. Means the newly obtained state need to be compared with the desired state. If the desired state, if it is equal to the desired state, that means that our search is successful and we are going to stop the procedure at that point only. Otherwise, we are going to continue the process. But during this process, we are going to get some hazards, we can say. So what kind of problems we may get? The first one is the dead ends. Okay, so when how can we say that we are going to get some dead ends? Means the selection of the best rule, we can say. Means when you are not able to identify the best applicable rule to that particular state, what happens? It may lead you to move towards the dead end. So what do you mean by dead end? Means from that particular state, you does not have any new position to move, other position to move, we can say. So in that case, what we call it as a dead end. So of course, when that such kind of dead ends are obtained, we are going to perform the backtracking. We are going to perform this backtracking. Backtracking in the sense we are going to come back to the previous state, and from there we will start our process once again. Okay, so that is the first important thing. And detect when. Even sometimes what happens, even if we are moving to the desired state, we cannot guarantee that it is our complete or total solution what we are expecting. So in that case, what we have to do is, even we need to refine and we need to make this solution, in the solution whatever we got should not be a partial solution. Okay, why? Because we are dealing with a decomposition problem. So in this case, what happens, the solutions whatever we make it sometimes may be partial. So in that case, you should suppose to detect whether the solution obtained to you is a partial solution or it is a complete solution. So this is the procedure definitely you need to follow, and even we can consider them as some steps or procedures that need to be followed in the planning system in order to obtain the desired solutions. So we can say, in simple words, we can say that in planning, the planning is going to tell us about the problem, the solution, the one kind of approach. What is that? Decompose the problem which you feel that it is more complex into several sub problems, try to identify the partial solutions for each and every subproblem. And once you got the solutions, you try to combine the partial solutions and try to get the complete solution for that given problem. So let us talk about the goal stack planning. So this is one of the planning activity, we can say planning technique, or we can say we are going to see even the planning algorithm also here. So what do you mean by here goal stack planning, which is one of the earliest methods in the artificial intelligence. So goal stack planning, we call it as a early method of artificial intelligence, which is going to make use of one of the technique which is called as backward reasoning, or otherwise we can say backward chaining. So what do you mean by backward chaining? So in the second module, we discussed about this forward chaining and backward chaining. In the forward chaining, we start our process of getting the solution from the initial state and we will try to move towards the goal state. But when it comes to backward chaining, we start our procedure from the back end. Okay, that means that from the goal state we are going to come. That's why we are saying that it is mentioned that the goal stack planning is going to follow. Okay, it is going to follow the procedure which is called as backwards. So what do you mean by backward here? We start from the goal state and we will try to move towards the initial state. Okay, so how we are going to move from the goal state to the initial state? Means every time we are trying to fulfill the preconditions. So what do you mean by preconditions? Means if you want to be in a particular state, then definitely you should satisfy some of the conditions. Means before applying the rule itself, your state should match to some particular conditions. Then only you could able to apply the rules to that particular state. So that's why we are calling them as a preconditions. So the goal stack planning is going to consider, means going to perform the activity of solving the problems starting from the goal state and every time trying to fulfill the preconditions. Okay, so in the upcoming sessions we will take one best example and we will try to understand how these preconditions will be identified and how the problems will be resolved. But only the thing you try to understand, whenever you need to apply, means whenever you are trying to apply a rule to a particular state, then your state should satisfy some preconditions. Then only the applicability of a rule is possible. So that's why we are calling them as a preconditions. Means in goal stack planning, every time it is keep on going in the fulfillment of the preconditions starting from the goal state and moving towards the initial state. Okay, we can say that Block's world rearrangement is one of the best example for this one goal stack planning. Means if you want to understand this goal stack planning, right, you need to understand how the problem of this Block's world rearrangement can be solved. Then it will be very easy to understand what do you mean by these preconditions and how we are going to fulfill these preconditions before applying a particular rule. Okay, even for this goal stack planning, we are having some preconditions. Okay, so we can say that these preconditions are nothing but some kind of preconditions which need to be satisfied first. So we say that we need to keep on solving those goals and also the sub goals. So up to what end we are going to perform, means until we reach to the initial state. So for each and every activity, for each and every process, for each and every step, we are going to follow a stack. Means we are going to maintain a stack. Means the entries that present in the stack is going to tell exactly what are the rules we have applied, what kind of preconditions we have compared, and what kind of changes that happened. Means from when we are starting from the back end, means from the goal state, how we are moving towards the initial state. For that one, each and everything that we are going to maintain in a particular data structure, we can say it as a stack. Okay. So at the end, what happens? Means at the end, we are going to have an empty stack, we can say. At the end, we are going to have a empty stack. So what do you mean by that? Means we have fulfilled the preconditions for each and every state, and also we have applied the appropriate rules to that particular state, and we moved from the goal state to the initial state. But only the thing is, in the goal stack planning, it is going to consider even the other state also. Means apart from initial state and goal state, even it is going to consider the other state which is called as a world state. So we can say that goal stack is going to make use of this world state in order to move from the goal state to the initial state. Okay, even we can say that world state on the other hand starts off as the initial state and ends up being transformed into the goal state. Okay, so we can say that at the end of the algorithm, just now we discussed, at the end of the algorithm, whatever the stack we are considering, whatever we are considering in order to enter the preconditions and rules, whatever applying, that is going to become empty. And a set of actions which helps us navigate from the initial state to the goal state. So these are the steps we are going to keep in the stack. So this stack is going to be empty when the completion of this process is happened. Well, that's why we say that at the end of the algorithm, the stack is going to be an empty. There will be no set of rules. There will be no set of actions that we are going to see in the stack. So that is all about the goal stack planning. So let us try to understand the other concept which is called as learning. So what do you mean by learning? We know means AI machine cannot be considered as an intelligent machine until and unless it exhibits some intelligence. The only question is how a machine, a physical machine can exhibit the intelligence. That completely depends upon how much it is learned. How much it is learned. So according to the critics, there are some critics people who are going to talk about this artificial intelligence, that they are saying that these machines cannot exhibit the intelligence. Means what do you mean by them? Means the AI machines cannot able to learn anything, and they cannot able to show any kind of intelligence. So that kind of critics are present in the market. So what happens here, we are going to say means with these things we are going to say that exactly the artificial intelligence machines are going to be so intelligent by learning. Means the AI machines are having the capability to learn, and also they are having the capability to showcase the intelligence. So we can say that learn to do new things and to adapt to new situations. So this is also very very important. Why? Because generally the artificial intelligence machines we developed in the laboratory conditions. Okay, but we cannot guarantee that. Means when we are deploying the same machine in the real world situations, we cannot guarantee that the machine is going to exhibit the same kind of intelligence what we are expecting. So that's why we need to prepare our AI machines in such a way that even it should showcase, or it should produce the same kind of intelligence even in the laboratory conditions and also even in the real world. Okay, so rather they are not simply doing as they told to do. Means it does not mean that just you are written some kind of AI program, and the AI machine is exhibiting the same intelligence as per that given program. So that's why we say that AI, artificial intelligence is in some cases or in some applications they are narrow. That's why we say that it is narrow artificial intelligence. So why? Because they are going to exhibit the behavior. They are going to exhibit their behavior or intelligence based upon the programs which are fed. Means they are having certain kind of limitations in implementing the intelligence. But our primary intention of developing AI machines is not that one. Okay, so the machine should be in a stage. The AI machine should be in a stage so that it can understand through observations also. Means it can learn through observations also, and it can able to exhibit its own intelligence. Means even if there is no similar kind of problem fed into it still it could able to produce the intelligence. So that is our main motto of developing these AI machines. So when this can happen means until and unless the machines can able to learn by its own, then only we cannot see. Then only we can able to see such kind of intelligence from the machines. So that's why we say that it is means if the machines are able to do such kind of things, then we can say that it is the ability to adapt to the new surroundings. So what happens if the machine can able to adapt to the new situations means then it could be able to solve the new problems. Means the solutions to the problems which we have not fed to the machine earlier. So this kind of things can happen when it could able to adapt to the new situations and when it can able to understand the new things from the surroundings by its own. Means without the intervention of the humans. So then we can say that those kind of machines are two intelligent machines. Means the way the AI machines are exhibiting the intelligence that completely depends upon the only one particular thing which we call it as a learning. So can we expect such kind of abilities in the program? So many of the AI critics, they say that they cannot, but it is not the thing. We are going beyond our limits in the artificial intelligence, and we are we are seeing more intelligent machines than what we have expected. Okay? So how we let us try to understand or talk about this learning. So learning is going to talk about the wide range of phenomena. So what do you mean by this wide range of phenomena? So that it can able to understand, so that it can able to learn new skills every time, new skills every time by observing the surroundings. Okay, so we can say that that kind of activity is nothing but some skill refinement. So generally, when we talk about the people, talk about the humans, we say that the humans are going to learn more by doing more practicing. Okay, for example, if it is a problem solving, whenever you are repeatedly solve the problems, then we can say that the student is going to be more intelligent in that one. Means the more you practice, the more you are going to get. So in simple words, we can say practice makes a man more perfect. Okay, so in the similar case, when it comes to the humans, the more they practice, it may be riding of a bike, or it may be playing of tennis, or it may be problem solving, or it can be mathematical theorem solving, whether it is playing of some kind of game, right? Everywhere you take, based upon the time he is spending in doing the practicing, then we can say that that much intelligent the human is going to become. So the similar kind of thing we need to see even in machines also. So, but the primary thing is it is going to completely depend upon the knowledge acquisition. Means how much knowledge the human or the AI machine could able to acquire, that much efficient the machine is going to become. Okay, so in this case, we can say that the artificial intelligence machine is going to exhibit the intelligence by learning. So how this learning process can happen? Until and unless it perform, or until and unless it could able to acquire the knowledge, then only we can say that the machine can learn perfect, it is learning perfectly, and it is able to produce the intelligence. So this learning knowledge acquisition can happen in different types of learnings. Through different types of learnings, the AI machine could able to acquire the knowledge through which it can learn something and it can exhibit some intelligence. So we can say that there are different kinds of learning mechanisms. Okay, so one is called as the rote learning. Rote learning, in the sense, this is a kind of learning generally even the humans are also going to follow. For example, if you take any of the song related to another language, means not related to your language, then only, means even if you don't know the meaning of that knowledge, but by continuously listening to that song, you would able to learn the song. So that kind of things, we can say that it is some kind of rote learning. Means even without knowing the meaning, as you are repeatedly doing the things, repeatedly trying to read some kind of sentences, then we can say that such kind of learning is called as a here rote learning. And another kind of learning is learning by taking the advice. Especially these kind of things we do when we are preparing the knowledge bases. In the preparation of knowledge base, every time we try to interact with the human experts, means the experts which are experts in a particular domain, and we will try to regularly interact with them, and we will try to get some additional information about a particular problem statement. Okay, so in that case, what happens, even by taking the advice, the humans or the AI machines also could able to learn. So that's why we say that the other kind of paradigm of learning is learning by taking the advice. And another kind of thing is learning in problem solving. Means the more you practice, the more you are going to learn. Okay, so sometimes what happens, even while working in the problem solving, for example, especially the people who are working in the coding. Okay, so how they are going to learn means, however, whenever how much time they are spending in order to solve certain kind of problems, so that through that also they are going to get some kind of knowledge. We can call it as a learning procedure. Means the more you are trying to solve the problems, then the more you are going to learn. So that is also one kind of procedure to learn the new things. And at the same time, the fourth kind of learning is called as learning from examples. Means even this kind of things that happens in the classroom. Means when we are trying to lecture some kind of definition to a particular term, the students may not be able to understand it. But whenever we try to explain the same definition by taking certain kind of examples, then the students will easily understand what the concept is. So in that case also we can say that it is also one of the learning process. Means for the knowledge acquisition, the learning can happen in 4 different ways. Either it can be through rote learning, or it can be through by taking advice, or it can be through problem solving, or it can be learning from the examples. Okay, so this is all about the learning procedure, and in the next coming video we will try to understand what do you mean by expert systems, and what are the different components that present in the expert systems along with expert system shell. So this is the reference I have used to prepare the content, and we will meet in the next coming session. Till then, thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.